Welcome dear students to our next part of the chapter Geometrical Constructions. In the last video, the last thing that we had learnt about was congruency of line segments. Just a reminder, congruence means equal in measure. When you have two geometrical figures which are having the same measurements, we say that those two geometrical figures are congruent to each other. Okay, so now we move further. The next part is congruence of circles. Okay, so in this, what is the meaning of congruence of circles? Circles of equal radii are called congruent circles. Means when we have two circles which are both having the same measurement for the radius, then both those circles will be called as congruent circles. Over here I've drawn this one circle which is having radius 2 centimeters. Over here also there is another circle in which I have mentioned that the radius is 2 centimeters. So in this case I will say that these two circles are congruent to each other. Okay? And what about these two circles? For this circle I have showed the radius as 1 centimeter. And for this circle, I have also shown the radius as 1 centimeter. So I can say that these two circles are congruent to each other. Okay? So this covers congruence of circles. We move on to the next part, which is congruence of angles. First, I will write the definition, the meaning of the congruence of angles. Okay, so the definition of congruency of angles says that when you have two angles with equal measures, then they are said to be congruent to each other. So I'm going to draw some angles on the board now, and we will give the measurements for those angles, and then we will write down which angle is congruent to which angle. Okay, so my first angle that I'm drawing over here, let's name it as A, B, C, and I'm writing the measure as 35 degrees. The next one I'm drawing over here, I'm drawing a right angle. Let's give it the name NIT, and I'm going to draw one obtuse angle which is having measurement 100 degrees, and we'll name it as PTQ. Okay, now I'm going to draw another set of three angles. Angle SRT, which is a right angle. Angle SPM, which is an acute angle, 35 degrees. And angle XYZ, 100 degrees obtuse angle. So now I have to match which angle is of equal measurement to the other angle. I've got 35 degrees over here, 35 degrees over here, 90 over here, 90 over here, and 100 over here, 100 over here. So now I will write down the congruency of those angles. So the first one which I get, angle ABC is congruent to angle SPM. The second one, this one, angle NIT is congruent to angle SRT. And finally the third one, angle PTQ is congruent to angle XYZ. Okay? So when you are asked to find out whether the angles are congruent to each other, you have to look at the measurements of the angles and then pair up the angles which are having the same measurement. Okay? Please copy this down. Now we'll continue further. The next part of the chapter is practice set 7, which is the last exercise for this particular chapter. I'm not going to write the question on the board because it occupies too much space and my board is a little small. So I'm going to read out the question. Practice set 7. Some angles are given in your textbook. Use the symbol of congruence and write the names of the pair of congruent angles in the figures. Okay. So there are some angles which are given, which are drawn in your textbook, and the measurements of those angles are given to you. You have to match and find out which angle is congruent to which angle. So I'll quickly draw the diagrams on the board. Okay, so these are the diagrams which are given to you, and it is asked to find out which particular angle is congruent to the other one. Now I'll write down that question as well. in the wrong page. Okay. So these are the diagrams which are given to you in your textbook, and you have to find out these angles are congruent to which angles. Okay. Your first diagram which is given to you, first you have to understand that this is your angle bisector diagram which is given to you, where you have angle AOC as a 90-degree angle, and this segment OB is the bisector for this particular angle. This bisector is dividing your angle into 45 degrees over here and 45 degrees over here, okay, which means that this measurement is 45, this is 45. Out of this much is 30 degrees, okay, so this much is marked. Now this one is a right angle triangle, which is 90 degrees. This one is 45 degrees, and this last angle over here is 30 degrees. So the first question which is given to you, angle AOC. This is a 90-degree angle, so it will be congruent to which angle? To this angle, angle PQR. Okay. The next one, angle RST. It's over here. RST. This is 45 degrees. So it will be congruent to which angle? Angle AOB. Angle AOB. And finally, you are given angle LMN, which is over here. Angle LMN, which is 30 degrees. It will be congruent to which angle? This angle over here, angle DOC. Okay, so please copy this down. Okay, so with this, dear students, we have completed our first chapter, Geometrical Constructions, and I expect you to complete the entire exercise in your notebooks. You can purchase a 200 pages long book which can be used only for maths. Please keep your maths notes separate from your other subjects, because this is what you will refer to even in the next classes. When you go to the 8th standard, 9th standard, you might require to refer back to your 7th standard books, because from the 7th standard you are learning the basic of maths, which will be required for all your remaining classes. Okay, so please purchase a 200 pages book and write everything that we have learned from this particular chapter in that, as per however I told you to write on the board. During the video, every time I have told you to write on the board, that much has to be there in your notebooks. Okay. The next lecture that we have, I will have an interactive session with you. I will have a Zoom lecture wherein you all can tell me if you all are having any difficulties. Okay. And after that, we will start with our new chapter. Okay. So thank you very much, dear students. I hope you all have understood this first chapter. And as I said, if you have any difficulties, make a note of it, and when we have our Zoom meeting, you can discuss it with me. Okay? Till then, stay safe, stay happy. Bye.